definitely reduce the amount of noise as possible. And I was also telling this to one of my friends yesterday that's trying to get into trading. But so that'd be the first one. Don't fall for like the easy way out. I don't think there's like a fast track to success when it comes to trading. Like it's gonna take time. It's gonna take that screen time, and that for some people, like I'm a slower learner, so it took me 2-3 years. Some people might pick it up within a year, but just don't expect that instant success. Like expect to lose money, but you have to have thick skin. Like you have to be able to stick it out and just make it a part of your life. Like unfortunately, trading, I think compared to other businesses, it does take a little longer. But again, if you're willing to stick it out, you'll see that success. So I'll say just don't expect that instant gratification or that instant success. So for every single one of those names, I'll mark my pre-market high, pre-market low, and then the previous day high and previous day low. So those are the main key levels I always mark every single day.
In episode 25 of the NOFOMO Podcast, Woodz sits down with trader Zuhayr Alam to talk about the reality of learning how to trade. Like many traders, Zu first discovered trading during the pandemic. What started as curiosity quickly turned into a multi-year journey of trial, error, and learning how to filter out the noise that dominates the trading world. Zu shares how it took 2 to 3 years to find consistency, why emotional control is one of the most important trading skills, and how simplifying his strategy helped him to finally gain clarity in the markets. We dive into the break and retest trading strategy, risk management approach, daily trading routine, and the biggest misconception new traders have about the industry today. If you're early to the trading journey or you're struggling to find consistency, this episode offers real insight on what the process actually looks like. Trading isn't gambling, but it does require discipline, patience, and persistence. What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of NOFOMO, the podcast, man. And we have ZuhCapital on with us today, man. I'm feeling good, feeling great. What is happening, Zu?
All good, man. Thank you for having me. Excited to finally connect with you, man.
Hey, square business, man. I'm excited to have you on, man. I like how you put your stuff together, man. You always dropping gems and providing value to the community. So I said, man, I definitely got to have you on so we can talk about it, bro.
For sure, man. I appreciate it.
So tell me, man, how did you first get into trading, and what inspired you to take it seriously?
Yeah, for sure. I'll say my very, very first exposure into trading hands-on was probably during the pandemic time. One of my really good friends, he's pretty big in the trading industry, and around that time he was starting his group or community, and myself and a few of our close friends, we kind of joined to help out. And then I was just kind of playing around on Robinhood. That's when everything kind of tanked and everyone was kind of buying in. So I didn't know much of what I was doing, but that was kind of my first exposure, I would say. But didn't last too long. I was also working full-time in IT at that time. Once kind of things opened back up, I kind of fell off of it. And then I would say 2022, about 3 years ago, summer of 2022 is when I really found interest in it. Something just clicked in me and I really wanted to pick it up. So just started going on YouTube, looking at free content. And that's when I really got into options and really kind of getting my feet wet and getting hands-on. So ever since then, I've kind of stuck with it.
Nice. So who was Zu before you got into trading?
Yeah, for sure. So I graduated college in 2018. I studied IT. I'm still kind of in the industry. But yeah, I would say that was kind of before trading, my main focus was working in IT full time. I've tried other businesses or side hustles in the past. I used to do online fitness coaching. I used to compete. So that was my first, experience with something outside of the norm.
Nice.
I've tried e-commerce, real estate. But yeah, I would say outside of tech, trading was the one thing that I really kind of found passion in. But yeah, man, that's kind of been my two main areas of focus for the past 2 years or so, I would say.
Nice. So tell me, what were some of your biggest challenges that you faced early on in getting involved in trading?
For sure, yeah. So for me personally, I would say, and I was talking to one of my friends about this last night, actually, we were talking about trading, but for trying to figure, there's so much information out there on the internet, especially now compared to 3 years ago, compared to even before that. So trying to kind of clean up all the noise and trying to find out, what content out there or what traders out there can I relate with. So I think that took me a while for sure. But once I was able to kind of narrow that down, kind of just finding one or two people I can really look up to and digest their content, then kind of figuring out, okay, what strategies can I stick with instead of just strategy hopping. I think that's one thing I also struggle with is like, shiny object syndrome. Someone's trading a certain way, you want to try that out, and then it just ends up being an endless cycle. So I would say those are like my early struggles is really finding consistency and like a focus. Um, yeah, if I have to choose one, I would say it was probably that.
For sure. Like, so describe a major turning point in your trading journey. Like, when did things start clicking for you, or you had your aha moment?
Yeah, if I feel like that's like a lifelong kind of journey, like in terms of like the aha moment and being able to stick
Real.
with that. But I guess for me, it would be honestly when I was able to find like one or two strategies after kind of going through that whole cycle of like following this trader, following that trader, when I was really able to like be disciplined with sticking with one to two strategies, that's when I really start to see like consistent profitability. Even if it was like $50 a day, $100 a day, it was still consistency compared to, things I was experiencing in the first 1 or 2 years of my journey. But obviously that was my aha moment. Like, I guess if we want to get more specific, like understanding, break and retest and
Mm,
really being able to kind of rinse and repeat and back test that every single day. For me, that's what really kind of helped me find consistency. And I've kind of stuck it out since then and just kind of refining it.
mm.
And that, I mean, for me, that took almost like 2.5, 3 years maybe to get to that point.
So like, how do you balance trading with your personal life, especially on days with high market volatility?
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm grateful in the sense that, I guess like since I started trading and like my full-time job, it's remote. So like I've had the flexibility of being home and being on the screen and kind of creating my own schedule. So
Nice.
I would say from like 9 a.m., which is when I start my pre-market, like analysis and charting and
Mm,
everything up until maybe 11:30. My main focus is just trading. And I try to kind of block out anything else unless if it's obviously emergency, whatever the case is. So on a day-to-day, Monday through Friday, that's like my morning, uh, like just dedicated to trading. But I mean, outside of that, it hasn't been too bad. Like I don't have like kids, so I don't have that additional responsibility. But I would say anytime that you kind of mentioned it before we hopped on, but when I'm not on the charts or when I'm not at my desk, I just try to be present with, if I'm with friends or family or at the gym, traveling, whatever the case is, I try to just take my mind off of it. But when I'm on the screen, 100% of my time, I try to, focus on trading and charting and, what's in front of me.
hmm. So like, when it comes down to your trading strategies and practices, because you give up a lot of game on your
Mhm.
on your TikTok, man, and just high value. So like, what is your primary trading strategy, and how did you develop it?
Yeah, for sure. So my primary trading strategy, the way I kind of describe it is, I'm a break and retest trader, and specifically within that break and retest, I take trades off of key levels, which I describe as pre-market high, pre-market low, and opening range breaks. So like the 5 minute opening range break, 15 minute, 30 minute, but primarily that pre-market high, pre-market low. I'll wait for a break and retest, and if there's no setup within that, I tend to not take trades. Um, so my style of trading, it is a little slower than other traders in a sense because there's some traders that take 2, 3, 4, 5 trades in a day. For me, I'm a one and done. If I can find an A+ setup, I'll be in and out. The way I kind of got to finding that strategy. So my very first mentor that I mentioned, my one of my friends that's been in the industry for a while, he's a breakout momentum trader. So that's how I kind of first learned about scalping and day trading from him. But I noticed like my personality didn't really match well with like momentum trading, and it is a little high risk in my opinion. So as I kind of dove into understanding more about like entries and exits, I kind of took that momentum and breakout trading style and combined it with perfecting the retest and bounces
Mm,
off of key levels. And getting to that point obviously took a while, but I would say, yeah, mixing what I learned from my very first mentor versus other traders that I've kind of followed. And just through back testing, it made a lot of sense to me. And even now, like it's when I see that setup, I'm very confident in it when I do take it. And then adding other things in now, like a fair value gap. I know those are like ICT, but those are kind of things that have helped me refine it over time.
And so how do you approach risk management in your trades? Do you have a specific system for cutting your losses?
Yeah, so I try to keep my risk as tight as possible. So, for example, and I try to talk about it in like a lot of the trade recaps that I do. But for example, if I enter off of like let's say a pre-market high retest, I'll try to keep my stop loss like on a close on a 5 minute time frame below that pre-market high, if that makes sense, and vice versa. If it's a pre-market low, it'll be a 5 minute close above. But obviously, it depends on the day. Like if it's a really harsh move, aggressive move, then I'll try to be a little bit more cautious. But I try to work off of that 5 minute time frame, and I really try to wait for a close above one of those key levels before I exit. Let's say I've been on the trade for a while. Obviously I try to move my stop loss up until maybe the previous 5 minute candle. That's like another one of the strategies that I use when it comes to my risk management and stop loss. But yeah, I try to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to risk management. Me personally.
Mm-hmm. So like for the other guys out there that are single and living their life
Mhm.
and wanting to get involved in trading, walk us through your daily trade routine. What does a typical trading day look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say I'm usually like up in the morning around like 8 a.m. Get my everything done, like get ready for the day. I'm on the at my desk at 9 at the latest, 9 a.m. Eastern at the latest. And then that's when I start doing. So the first thing I try to look at is, what are the events for the day? Is there major earnings taking place, Fed speakers, so on and so forth, and that's all free information online. But that's the first thing I look at, and then the second thing I look at is marking up my key levels. So marking for all the tickers that I trade, which is primarily SPY, QQQ, and then a few individuals within the tech space like Tesla, Microsoft, Nvidia. Not too many, maybe like 5 to 6. So for every single one of those names, I'll mark my pre-market high, pre-market low, and then the previous day high and previous day low. So those are the main key levels I always mark every single day. And by the time I'm done with that, it's usually like 9:20, 9:25. So just waiting for market open up until that point. And then yeah, from 9:30 a.m. Eastern, market open up until I would say 11 at the latest is like my main time to trade. So if I don't find a setup within that time, most days I'll probably just call it a day. Certain days, I mean, if I'll stay on a little later, if I see a setup later in the day, maybe power hour, whatever the case is. Uh, and then usually towards the end of the day, after market close, around 4 p.m. Eastern, I go back through my charts to review any trades that I took that day. And then I'll also clean up my levels. So obviously the previous day high and low is now invalid. So I try to update it for that current day. So I'll just clean up all my levels, get it ready for the next day. And then usually later at night or later in the evening, whenever I do have time, I'll try to do like 30 minutes to an hour of back testing. So I use TradeZella. So on there, I'll try to play out my exact strategy, maybe for like 1 week worth of data or 2 weeks worth of data. So it just helps me kind of stay fluid with my strategy and
Right.
just within trading in general.
What markets are you primarily trading?
Yeah. So for me, I primarily do options and futures. But for options, as of recent, it's mostly been SPY and QQQ, and then
Mm,
from time to time I'll trade like Tesla. I guess my favorite ones when it comes to individuals are like Tesla, Nvidia, depending on the day, AMD. I prefer the tech stocks. They tend to move a little bit better, especially with news and earnings. And then for futures, a few months ago I was really focused on futures. Now it just depends. But for that, it's usually MNQ and then MES. So like for
okay.
micros.
Okay. So like, how do you decide when to enter a trade or when to exit a trade, and what indicators or signals do you rely on the most?
Yeah, so I would say over time I've kind of reduced the amount of indicators and like noise on my charts. The main things that I try to look at is really like those key levels. So like that pre-market high, pre-market low, previous day high, previous day low. So those are like my main indicators. Like, is okay, did we break out of one of those key levels, and what is a retest looking like? And I always try to wait for a confirmation candle as well. So that's one thing I've noticed in my back testing recently is like the trades where I don't wait for a confirmation candle on the 5 minute time frame is when I tend to kind of either take an early entry or rush into a trade. So now, even though it takes a little longer, it does take a little bit more discipline. I try to wait for a 5 minute confirmation candle for on a retest on one of those key levels, and that's helped me, I would say, on most of my most recent winning trades. But other indicators, I mean, like volume for sure. I definitely try to look at. I have a few different EMAs. I have my 9 EMA and 21 EMA. But I don't rely on that too much. It just kind of helps me if certain trades start like turning into longer day trades. Then I kind of try to utilize that. But yeah, it's really just those key levels, and then volume, I would say, is my main indicators, I would say.
So like what role does emotional control play in your trading, and how do you manage stress and anxiety during losing streaks?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, for most traders, I would say like the emotional aspect is huge. Like for me personally, I think things I've dealt with when it comes to this specifically is having confidence in entering trades. So there's been times where even where I see my setup, I don't take it for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I just took a loss in the previous trade and that's still in my head, or whatever the case is. So those are definitely like common things I feel like most traders have to have a handle on, over time. I don't think it ever goes away, but I think you just learn how you can work with it. And then the losing streaks is huge too. Like for example, the month of August wasn't that great for me. Like I had a lot of winning trades, but it was more of a break even month for me. But things I tried to do during that month, or losing streaks in general, is size down. So, for example, if my average size on trades is let's just say 10 contracts, or position size is 3,000, whatever the case is, I'll try to either take like 3/4 of that or half of that. And then once I'm able to get a few winning trades under the belt, then scale back up to my normal position size. So that's one thing I've learned from a few of my mentors. And then also reducing the amount of names I'm looking at. So I like how I mentioned, like SPY and QQQ is like my favorite tickers to trade. So maybe like certain days only focusing on those two instead of looking at like 6 to 8 different tickers. And then also like the amount of content I'm digesting. So for me, I've noticed that like if I'm going through a losing streak and I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and I see a lot of, and it's not out of jealousy, but it messes with your head because you're seeing other traders that you might be trading very similar to. They're having winning trades, but you're not. And then you go through this rabbit hole of, okay, what's going wrong? Am I meant for this? So on and so forth. So I try to reduce the amount of content I'm looking at during those times and really just focus on my trading. And then once I'm able to get back on track, then, getting back to normal with all of that.
Right. So like how do you stay disciplined and sticking to your trading plan, especially when the market is unpredictable?
Yeah.
Wait,
It's hard.
right,
Yeah, go
right.
ahead.
I'm trying to make sure I didn't go over a question that I asked you before, but I wanted to ask how do you stay disciplined?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say it's like a daily struggle or journey, I would say. But like for me, what's helped me a lot with that is the back testing. Like the more I'm able
Mm,
to really practice my strategy both in the live market and also in like in my back testing hours, after market hours, it helps. It gives me reassurance that, hey, like what I'm doing and my strategy is successful, and like it gives me extra confirmation because now I'm seeing it in real time, and then I'm also seeing it during times of practice. I grew up playing sports, so like I have that practice mentality in my head, and also just going to the gym, like just the amount of reps you put in, it turns into muscle memory. So the more I'm able to, and I'm a very hands-on learner, so the more I'm able to see it in real time, it just gives me extra confirmation. So, and
mm.
then yeah, taking that into the live market, and back testing, like seeing, okay, my losing trades are when I deviate from my strategy, and my winning trades are when I stick to it. So, I try to keep that in mind as much as possible, every morning.
Mm. So like, have you ever experienced significant losses, and how did you mentally recover and adjust your approach from that loss?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, so my losses haven't ever been like detrimental, but like they've been, I mean, pretty like uncomfortable. Like for example, it's more than you would want to lose on one single trade. Um, so I would say like during those times, it's really reviewing what went wrong, like really trying
Mm-hmm.
to look deep within, like, did I take this trade out of FOMO? Was it because I was tailing someone's trade?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do to avoid ever taking this big of a loss, going forward? Um, I guess like two trades really come to mind. Like there was one trade I took on Tesla, and I think it's because I was tailing someone's trade. Like it kind of fit into my strategy, but not 100%. And then I saw someone else about to take it, so I kind of entered based off of that. And then since then, I'm like, okay, I'm never gonna, like, I know, like me personally, I hate fault like tailing people's trades, and I still did it, and this was a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
So but just keeping that in mind is it kind of reverts me back into just focusing on my strategy and what I know best. Um, and just keeping in mind that like every single trader sees the market differently. So what I'm seeing, you might not see, and what you're seeing, I might not see, and that's perfectly fine. But as long as you're able to find success in how you view things, I think that's what keeps you going forward. And when it comes to losses or significant losses, that's kind of what's helped me kind of get back on track.
Mm.
Thankfully.
And man, Zoo, you come off to me as a very intellectual guy, a guy that's not afraid to pick up a book or dig
Mhm.
into an extensive course. So, what books, courses, or resources have been the biggest impact on your trading journey?
Yeah. I would say trading related books. I haven't read too many, but I would say like I used to, especially during like the pandemic time. That's when I really picked up reading. Like Think and Grow Rich was like one of like the first ones I read. There's so many more.
More
Atomic Habits.
mindset books.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Mindset. I'll be
Atomic
honest. I
Habits
don't.
is a good one.
Yeah, yeah, very good one. I don't read as much anymore, but I would say just getting into the habit back then really opened my mind into just thinking differently and being able
Mm,
to kind of understand other people better. So I would say like that kind of translated into me as I was trying to find my path and trying to find a community within trading that helped me more because now I'm able to understand other people a little bit better than I used to back then. Um,
mm,
and then courses, I've only ever really taken one course, I would say trading wise, and it helped me understand like the very basics of options trading. But other than that, man, I always tell people like most of how I learned was through a lot of the free content. There's so much out there on YouTube and Instagram. So once you're able to really narrow down one or two people you can really relate to, just I would say stick it out with that and
mhm.
try to kind of I guess like milk it as much as possible before you invest money into a course in all the cases. But I mean, there's from what I've seen, there's a lot of really good trading books out there. I just found more success in digesting like YouTube content and then taking that and then back testing and going into a paper trading account and live trading account after.
So, how do you view demo trading versus live trading when it comes to refining your strategy?
Yeah, so I never personally went directly into paper trading. So from what I remember in the beginning stages, I did start off with a very, very small account once I kind of got the basics down. So like when I say basics, like understanding price action, understanding volume, support and resistance. So once I was able to do the very, very basic stuff when it comes to trading, then I kind of opened up a really small account on, I think it was Thinkorswim, and then started taking trades. And then I was also in a community, so like I got to see other traders trade real time, so that
Mm,
also helped as well. But I think demo account it's not it's good. I think it allows you to understand how to even take a trade and what
mhm,
that looks like. You entering a trader, you seeing a winning trade, you seeing a losing trade. So seeing that again kind of goes back to what I said earlier as in terms of putting in those reps and practicing. But the one thing you're always gonna miss when it comes to demo accounts or paper accounts is that emotional aspect. Because let's say you make $500 on a paper trading account, it's gonna feel good, but it's not gonna be the same as a real account, and vice versa. Let's say you take a $500 loss on a paper account, you're not gonna really feel it as much because it's not your own money you're losing versus losing that in real life. That's gonna hurt. So I would say there's good and bad. I would say after a certain while, I definitely recommend getting into a live account.
mhm.
Same thing with like prop firms and prop accounts. I think there's really good benefits to it, but depending on how you utilize it, you might be missing that like emotional aspect or mental aspect of it.
So, like, how do you continuously improve and adapt your strategy to the changing market conditions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say kind of going back to that back testing is so for example, like the market in August was very different from how it was in like June, July, May. So that I try to kind of when I do my back testing, I try to kind of compare market conditions from different months or different times of the years. And then sometimes I'll even go back to like a year or two back and kind of comparing how movements were back then versus now. And then that helps me kind of understand how to kind of tweak my entries and how I view staying in trades. For example, like August was a very slow month. So there's maybe a few days where there was like very big moves.
Mm,
Um, so like I try to see, okay, how can my trading strategy and my entries adapt to like these slower moving markets? So like one thing I started to do was waiting instead of looking for obviously, I'm still on the screen at 9:30 a.m., but instead of trying to take a trade between 9:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., waiting maybe the first 30 minutes and then letting the market find the direction and then entering a trade. So that's like one thing I had to do to adapt. But yeah, I would say testing out your strategy within those different time frames and different market conditions and seeing how it can react and how it's successful and what's not working. But I think that's like a lifelong thing you're gonna have to really adapt to is sticking with your trading strategy, but being able to be fluid with it in a sense and adapting to the market.
so, man, I wanted to ask you about your broader industry insights, especially with all the action you see with all the prop firms and the space is steady growing and inviting new people into the space. Like, what are your thoughts on the current state of the markets, and where do you see trading opportunities?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the barrier to entry for trading, it's like wide open in my opinion. Like there's so many different ways of getting into trading. Like for me, my exposure was through options, but now like I know futures is like huge because of again, like Yanni mentioned, is like because of the prop firms. You know, you can buy prop firm accounts for this crazy deals. Like for $19, you can get like one prop firm account for and get funded for $100,000 if you know you pass, obviously. So I think the barrier to entry is very minimal now, which is I mean it's nice to see because you know I think like there's no downside of having more people entering the trading industry. But I guess the negative with all that is there's a lot of you have to kind of be careful for newer traders. You have to be careful with I don't want to say getting scammed, but finding accurate information because a lot of people can fake it really easily. So being able to kind of like being able to navigate through that is it might be a struggle for newer traders trying to get in now. But I think this is a really easy time to get in, and like if you're able to understand how prop firms work and how to leverage that as best as possible for you, I think that you can, you know, multiply your income very well if you're able to stay consistent with that. So there's a lot of different ways of making money versus how it was when at least when I got into the industry, and I don't know, maybe you can relate as well. And then a lot of the traders that I look up to, they say the same thing. Like they started trading, you know, maybe 10 years ago, and the barrier to entry was probably a lot harder back then. There wasn't as much information online. So like it's definitely a lot easier to get in now, but being
Right.
able to stay consistent with it and navigate to the BS is going to be the struggle for newer traders.
So, like, has trading how do you feel trading has evolved over the years, and how do you see it changing in in the next decade?
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of like a lot of younger traders now, which I mean, I wish I got into trading when I was like in college and even younger. But how I see it changing, I think the prop like model is gonna be growing in my opinion. I think it's just gonna become more um common. Like I'm starting to see prop firms for options. I think I've only seen one, but I think that's gonna become more yeah, it reduces the amount of like you leverage that you're putting on. So I feel like that's going to be around to stay for a while, as long as you know they're able to stay regulated and whatever the case is. Um, I do see it growing in general. I think, especially with how like the job market is now, you know, people are trying to look for other ways of making money or finding income, whether it be through you know other side businesses or trading. I think that's just another added reason for why the trading world and community is just going to grow in general. Um, But yeah, that's just how I kind of see it going forward. But it's going to be interesting to see how like market conditions are. I know like a lot of people were expecting changes after, Trump took office this past year, and we kind of did see that. So it's just going to be interesting to see, how like news and political events are going to continue to affect the market. And I'm not huge into politics like that, but just interested to see long term how that's going to keep affecting the market. But yeah, I see trading in general just growing a lot going forward.
Mm. So like, what are some common misconceptions about day trading that you think should be cleared up?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think like the gambling aspect, like a lot of people don't understand. Like from the outside looking in, for someone who has very minimal trading knowledge, they'll view trading as gambling, and
Mm-hmm.
there's obviously many reasons for that. A lot of traders on social media, they'll try to sell their signals or sell their call outs, and I'm not a big fan of that because that kind of makes trading seem like gambling, because you're guaranteeing someone X amount of return if they buy into your Discord, which isn't really the case. Like there's so much more into trading. But I think that's the biggest misconception that I've disliked about the like trading world, is when people view it as gambling. Or I mean, yes, it is risky, but with anything there's risks, and if you're not able to, you know, operate trading correctly, yes, obviously it is, the risk is going to be infinite. But I would say like that, the gambling aspect of it, and there's always that stat that only like 0.01% of traders make it to be profitable. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's also a reason for that, because many people want to, get into trading and investing, and they'll pick it up for a little bit and give up and move on to the next thing. I think that's what adds on to the statistic. It's not necessarily because trading is an impossible thing. It's like anything else. I think once you're able to invest the time and effort into it, you'll see success in return. It's just like going to school. Like it takes us, 3-4 years to get a college degree. So why not look at trading the same way, right? Why
Right.
not stay patient for that long? So I would say those are like the three huge misconceptions that I always hear about and see, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of. But I think, as long as we get the right amount of traders, the exposure, we'll be able to reduce that over time.
Mm. So like, I wanted to ask you about advice that you would prefer to give to new traders. Anyone that's
Mhm.
coming to you for advice, what advice would you give someone starting their day trading journey if they were to start today?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say like the first thing is definitely reduce the amount of noise as possible. And I was also telling this to one of my friends yesterday that's trying to get into trading. But when I say that, what I mean is like there's so many different there's so much content out there when it comes to trading. So I always point people to like the traders that I followed when I started off, but I always say, hey, like if there's another trader that you really like and you understand, like stick with them. Don't move on to the other trader. Really try to understand their strategy and, what they're trying to teach you through their content. And digest that as much as possible before finding another trader, because every single trader has their own strategy. So that's the first thing I would say, is reduce the amount of noise when it comes to that as possible. And then slowly over time, once you're able to find consistency and success, then maybe add on that second strategy and follow that second trader. So that'd be the first one. Don't fall for like the easy way out. I don't think there's like a fast track to success when it comes to trading.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna take time. It's gonna take, that screen time, and that for some people, like I'm a slower learner, so it took me 2-3 years. Some people might pick it up within a year, but just don't expect that instant success. Like expect to lose money, but you have to have thick skin. Like you have to be able to stick it out and just make it a part of your life. Like unfortunately, trading, I think compared to other businesses, it does take a little longer. But again, it's if you're willing to stick it out, you'll see that success. So I'll say just don't expect that instant gratification or that instant success. Although, yeah, you might see 1 or 2 winning days in the beginning. It's just don't expect to see that every single day going forward. Yeah, I would say that those would be like the two biggest advice I would get, is reduce the noise and stay patient and stay disciplined and just make it a part of your life.
Hmm. So if you could get in the DeLorean and go back in time just to meet with yourself when you first started day trading, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. Um, so I mean, there was definitely times, especially in the beginning, where I was like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should move on to something else. But I would definitely, the first thing I would say is just stick it out. The beginning is going to be rough, but it's going to pay off. It's going to be a long journey, but it's going to pay off for sure. And even right now, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm very far from where I started. So that'd be the first thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is kind of going back to the advice that I just gave, is really just trying to keep my mind clear as possible. Like I'm very ADHD when it comes to those things. So like just focus on one thing and one thing only. So one strategy and one strategy only, and perfect that. And then I would overlook the small things. So maybe you've heard the same thing, but a lot of traders talking about like journaling trades and reviewing trades. That's one thing I kind of overlooked. I was like, maybe I don't need to do this. I'll just hop on at 9:30 the next morning. So I would say being really disciplined with what I do with my time outside of market hours. I would tell my earlier self to really focus on that, because that's what's helped me a lot more from year 2 to year 3 or year 1 to year 3, whatever the case is.
So being more intentional with your time.
Yeah, for sure. Being intentional with my time and just keeping my mind as clear as possible.
So like, what is one mistake that you see new traders making over and over again?
Yeah, I would say relying on other traders. So like, I don't think there's anything bad about joining a Discord community. I think it's actually very beneficial. Like trading is it can get lonely. Obviously, it's just you and the charts. So if you're able to find a community you can relate to, I definitely recommend it. Even if you're paying for it, but over time, don't rely on the trader that's running the community or running the IG TikTok page that you're looking at. Don't only rely on their call outs, and don't feel like you have to trade when they trade, or you can't trade when they don't trade. Like just look to them as guidance, but over time just develop that independence. I think that's one thing that a lot of traders I see, they use those Discord communities or their mentors as crutches. Like they don't know how to operate unless if their mentor is trading. And I think that can hurt you in the long run, because you don't understand, you don't learn how to trade you don't learn how to become a trader essentially if you keep doing that. So that's definitely one of the biggest mistakes, I would say. It's a good way to get into the industry and get your foot in the door, but don't look at it as a long-term thing, I would say.
Right. So like as we come down to my last bit of questions, these questions here are rapid fire sniper questions. Just answer with the first thing off the top of your mind, first thing comes to mind. What's your go-to trading platform?
Thinkorswim.
Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee.
What is the most underrated skill in trading?
That's a good one. I don't even know the word for it, but just trading off of instinct. So you see it set up, take a setup. Don't overthink it.
And favorite book on trading?
I think Trading in the Zone, what it was called. I don't remember the author.
Mark Douglas.
That was probably my favorite.
Yeah. Nice. So do you trade with music or in silence?
I have podcasts playing in the background. I can't do music. It's too distracting.
And best stress reliever after a long day?
Going to the gym.
Nice. Man, Zu, it has been a great conversation, brother.
Yeah, likewise, man. I enjoyed it.
Hey, and man, I love hearing about your experience. I'm watching you grow, brother, and I'm rooting for you, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Likewise, bro. Love seeing your growth, and love what you're doing with the podcast as well. So always happy to support.
Indeed. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the NOFOMO Podcast, where we discuss keeping it cool and adapting to today's ever-changing market. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our future drops. We've got plenty more insight coming your way. Until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and remember, when it comes to trading, the best mindset to keep is no FOMO. Y'all be cool, and we'll catch you on the next one.